I never thought I'd be the guy posting this kind of stuff, but here we are. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 8 years now. We met in college, and she seemed perfect, smart, funny, beautiful. Honestly, I thought I had lucked out. We got married 5 years ago, and everything seemed fine, or so I thought. We had our ups and downs, but I was pretty sure we were solid. She was a little bitchy sometimes, sure, but I figured that was just her personality or maybe stress from work. I worked in marketing. She was a project manager at this big tech company. Lately, though, she'd started acting different. She'd be secretive on her phone, brushing it off when I asked who she was texting. She'd come home late, saying she was working late, but then I'd see her with her phone hidden when I came into the room. Small things, but enough to make me suspicious. I tried to ignore it at first, thinking maybe I was just overthinking, but something felt off. The real turning point was about 2 weeks ago. I was stuck in traffic, that usual nightmare on our way home from work, and I happened to glance at my phone and see a message pop up. It was from Lisa's number, and the message was from her boss, John. It was kind of flirty, saying things like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "I miss you." At that moment, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I stared at it for a second, then quickly closed the app before she saw it, but the damage was done. My stomach sank. I knew something was seriously wrong, and I had to find out what. That night, I kept replaying that message in my head, trying to dismiss it as some stupid joke or maybe just work banter. But I knew better. I remembered how she'd been acting weird all week, like she was hiding something. Still, I was in shock. I wanted to believe it was nothing, that maybe she was just joking around or talking to a friend. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. I had to confront her. I couldn't keep living with this doubt hanging over me. Next day, I decided I'd ask her directly. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I needed clarity. That evening, I waited until she came home from work, her typical bitchy attitude a little more pronounced than usual. When she walked in, I was already anxious. I pulled out my phone and showed her the message. Her face froze for a second, then she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, come on, Mike, that's nothing. You're being paranoid. You're reading too much into it." She brushed it off as if I was just making a mountain out of a molehill, but I pressed her. "Who's John, Lisa? What's going on?" Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive with a quick slap of a lie. "That's just work stuff. He's my boss, yeah, but I swear that's all it was. You're crazy for even thinking otherwise." I knew she was lying, but I didn't have proof yet. Still, I saw the flicker of guilt in her eyes. That's when I started to realize that everything I thought I knew about my wife was crumbling. I felt a mixture of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak all at once. I stared at her, trying to get her to confess, but she just kept throwing out excuses, trying to convince me I was imagining things. I realized then that this was just the beginning. Things were about to get a lot uglier. After her initial denial, Lisa started to get bitchy, throwing in more lies, trying to brush me off like I was losing my mind. She told me I was paranoid, that I was overreacting because I was stressed out from work. She called me crazy and said I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I could see through her bullshit. Deep down, I knew I wasn't imagining it. I could see the guilt in her eyes, and her voice was too defensive, too quick. I knew she was hiding something, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Over the next few days, I started noticing more signs. Her phone was constantly glued to her hand, and whenever I'd try to look at her screen, she'd shift it away or put it down. She became more bitchy, snapping at me over small things, which was unusual even for her. She'd go out with friends after work, without telling me where she was going, and then she'd come back late, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. I'd catch her with her phone hidden, always deleting messages or turning off her notifications when I walked in. One night, I decided to follow her. I didn't want to do it, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. I waited until she said she was meeting some coworkers, and then I shadowed her from a distance. She got in her car, and I followed at a safe distance as she drove to some upscale hotel downtown. My heart was pounding, thought I was going to throw up. She went into that place, and I parked around the corner trying to stay hidden. It was like a punch to the gut when I saw her come out an hour later with a guy I didn't recognize. They were holding hands, walking to her car. I saw the way she looked at him, like she was the happiest she'd been in years. I managed to get close enough to hear their voices when she was inside her car. They were talking about how she'd been waiting for this moment, and how they finally got away with it. My blood ran cold. I didn't need to hear more. I saw everything I needed, the secret meetings, the lying, the cheating. That's when it hit me hard. She'd been screwing her boss, John, at work, and probably much longer than I thought. All the signs added up now. The late nights, the perfume, the secret texts, the sneaky meetings. I'd been blind, but not anymore. I sat in my car for what felt like hours trying to process what I'd just seen. My mind was racing, anger, sadness, betrayal, all at once. How could she do this to me, to us? I thought about the years we'd shared, the plans we had, all the moments where I'd thought we were building something real. And now I felt like I'd been living a lie. I knew I had to confront her again, but I also knew I needed a plan. I couldn't let her keep lying to my face, especially after I'd seen her with that guy. I had to get to the bottom of it. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I knew I'd catch her off guard, get her to admit the truth once and for all. The damage was done, but I wanted to hear it from her lips. No more lies, no more bullshit. I got some evidence, photos I secretly took of her with John, some texts I'd saved. I was ready. Whatever she said, I was done pretending everything was okay. I was ready to face whatever came next, even if it shattered my world. That morning, I woke up feeling numb but determined. I knew I couldn't let her keep spinning her lies. I decided I was going to confront her head-on, but I also wanted to catch her in the act if I could. I stayed quiet for a while, waiting for the right moment. She got up, all bitchy and snippy as usual, and I let her think I hadn't noticed anything. It was hard to keep calm, but I had to. I played it cool, acting like I didn't know anything until I was ready. She went about her morning routine, acting like she was just heading to work, but I had already prepared my little plan. I set up my phone to record, just in case she slipped up. I had the photos on my phone saved and ready to go. As she was grabbing her purse and about to leave, I stopped her. "Lisa, I need to talk to you," I said calmly but firmly. Her bitchy attitude immediately flared up. "What now, Mike? Can't you see I'm busy?" she snapped. I looked her right in the eyes. "No, I think we need to talk about last night, about John." Her face froze for a split second and her eyes darted away. I saw her swallow hard. That was my cue. I pulled out the photos and the texts I'd saved. "I know what you've been doing," I said quietly. "I saw you with him, at the hotel. You lied to me, Lisa. How long has this been going on?" Her reaction was classic, her face twisted, trying to come up with a lie. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're overreacting. That's just work stuff, I swear." She looked furious and her voice got sharp. "You're accusing me of cheating, but you don't have proof. Maybe you've lost it." She was trying to gaslight me, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I had the evidence, and I wasn't going to pretend anymore. I snapped the photos on my phone and showed them to her. "Proof enough, Lisa. You've been lying for months. You've been sneaking around with your boss, John, behind my back. How could you do this to us, to me?" Her face turned red and she started crying, acting like the victim. "Oh, come on, Mike. You're overreacting. It's not what you think. I was just having some fun. It didn't mean anything. You're making a big deal out of nothing." That's when I realized she's a manipulative bitch. She always knew how to spin her lies, how to turn things around on me. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her she needed to leave, that I couldn't stay with someone who lied so blatantly. She looked at me with pure disdain, trying to guilt trip, trying to make me feel like the bad guy. But I was done. I knew I had to get out of this mess. She'd broken whatever trust we had left, and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. As she stormed out that morning, tears and bitchy accusations flying, I sat down, feeling an odd mixture of relief and heartbreak. I knew my life was about to change forever. I'd never felt so betrayed, so angry. I'd lost the woman I thought I knew, and I was left staring at the wreckage of what was supposed to be our marriage. Still, part of me felt like I'd finally woken up from a nightmare. I had to figure out what came next, whether to fight for this mess or to walk away. Either way, I knew I'd never look at her the same way again. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and confusion. I'd made up my mind that I wasn't going to be her punching bag anymore. I filed for divorce, needed to get out of this toxic mess and rebuild what I could of my shattered trust. But even as I signed the papers, there was a lingering feeling of loss. This wasn't just about the marriage. It was about the betrayal, the lies, the fact that I'd been so blind for so long. Lisa, of course, didn't take it well. She threw tantrums, called me crazy for doing this, and insisted she was sorry but needed her freedom. She kept lying, spinning stories about how it was just sex, just a fling, and that she never loved John the way I thought she did. She insisted she was leaving town for a while, maybe to clear her head, but I knew better. I knew she was planning to stay with John, probably move in with him, or at least keep sneaking around. We had a final showdown at the house. I told her I wanted the truth, no more bullshit. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Mike, I never loved you the way you think I did. I was bored and John made me feel alive again. You weren't paying enough attention and I needed something more. Yeah, I slept with him, but it doesn't mean I want to leave you or stop loving you. It's complicated." That's when I really felt the anger rise. How could she be so bitchy and manipulative? How could she lie so effortlessly? I looked at her and realized I was done being the fool. I told her to get out, that I wanted her gone, and I wasn't going to waste my time on someone who could cheat so shamelessly and then try to spin it like it was just a mistake. She left in a storm of tears and bitchy accusations, but I didn't care. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I had finally seen her true colors. The woman I thought I loved had been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. The betrayal cut deep, but I knew I had to move on. I started to focus on myself, on fixing what was broken inside me. But here, what really hit me, I realized she had been like that from the start. Her bitchy attitude, her lying, her manipulations, they were all just part of her. I'd ignored the red flags for too long, blinded by love or maybe denial. I learned that trusting someone blindly isn't just foolish, it's dangerous. And I also learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to find your way back. In the end, I just want to say to anyone out there who's going through a similar thing, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how much you want to believe in the fairy tale, because once that trust is broken, it's almost impossible to get back. Be ready for the truth, no matter how ugly. And remember, you're better off alone than with someone who treats you like trash. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. I thought I'd be fine once she was out of the house, but the emptiness lingered. Every room in this place seemed to echo with her bitchy voice, her lies, the moments I ignored the warning signs. I felt angry at myself for being so blind, so trusting, like I had walked straight into a nightmare and couldn't wake up. But I knew I had to keep moving forward. I started going through everything she left behind, the clothes, the jewelry, the little notes she'd written, all the reminders of a life I thought was real. That's when it hit me again how manipulative she was. She'd been lying so smoothly, acting like the perfect wife, but behind the scenes she was sneaking around, screwing her boss, playing me for a fool. I saw the signs now, her bitchy attitude, her constant lies, her fake smiles. All of it was a mask, and I was the fool who wore it. I also found her phone and I went through her messages more carefully. There were hundreds of texts from John, some explicit, some just flirtatious, and the tone was so obvious. She was craving that attention, that excitement she'd been missing. The worst part was her tone, so bitchy when she was caught, so manipulative and cold. She convinced herself she was the victim, that she was just having fun, that I wasn't enough. But I knew better now. I'd seen her true face and it wasn't pretty. I also discovered she'd been lying to her friends too, telling them she was miserable, that I was controlling, that she needed her freedom. I realized now she'd been playing everyone, including me, like a damn game. The woman I'd loved was just a mask hiding a selfish, manipulative bitch. It hurt so much to admit that, but I had to face it. No more illusions, no more denial. I had to rebuild my life on honesty, not on her lies. The hardest part was accepting that I might never get closure from her. She kept trying to call, to text, to guilt-trip me into giving her another chance. But I finally understood that some betrayals are too deep to recover from. I didn't want a woman who could cheat, lie, and manipulate her way through everything. I wanted honesty, loyalty, respect. And she had shown me she was incapable of that, so I made a decision. I would focus on myself now. No more drama, no more fake apologies. I would start fresh, learn from this nightmare and never ignore warning signs again. I want anyone reading this to know, trust is fragile. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you what kind of person someone really is. You can't control their choices, but you can control how you respond. If someone is bitchy, manipulative, and dishonest, it's better to walk away than stay and suffer in silence. Don't let anyone treat you like trash, because in the end, you're the one who suffers when you ignore those red flags. Now, I'm just trying to piece my life back together. It's not easy, and I still feel the sting of betrayal every day, but I know I'll be okay. I've learned my lesson. Trust your instincts. Never settle for less than honesty and respect. And never ignore the bitchiness and lies. They're usually a sign of something much worse underneath. Looking back now, I realize that this whole nightmare was a brutal wake-up call. I thought I knew Lisa, thought she was my partner, my best friend. But she was just hiding a side of herself I never wanted to see. The bitchy attitude, the manipulations, the lies, those weren't just quirks. They were her real personality. And the worst part is, I let myself ignore the signs for too long because I desperately wanted to believe she was the woman I fell in love with. Turns out, that woman was just a mask, hiding a selfish, dishonest person who cared only about her own pleasure. Getting out of that marriage, walking away from everything I thought we had, was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But it was also the best decision I ever made. I learned that no amount of love or effort can fix someone who doesn't want to be honest or loyal. Some betrayals run too deep, and trying to salvage them only drains you emotionally. I've come to understand that self-respect is more important than holding onto someone who treats you like trash. Now, I'm just focused on rebuilding my life. I've started therapy to work through the betrayal and the anger, and I've been reconnecting with friends I drifted from. Little by little, I'm learning to trust again, not just others but myself. I realize how blind I was to the red flags, how much I wanted to see us as the perfect couple when really I should have been paying attention to her actions, not her words. Because actions never lie and hers told a pretty dark story. To anyone out there who's going through something similar, I want to say this. Don't ignore the bitchiness, the secrecy, the lies. Those are warning signs. No matter how much you love someone, you have to protect yourself. Trust your gut and don't be afraid to walk away if someone shows you their true colors. Because in the end, you deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty. Never settle for less. This experience has been brutal, but it's also been a lesson. I'll never let anyone treat me like that again. I'll never ignore red flags just to hold onto some illusion of happiness. Because real happiness comes from knowing yourself and valuing yourself enough to walk away from toxicity. I hope anyone reading this takes that to heart. Don't be afraid to face the ugly truth. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters yourself.